Hi everyone, you are welcome to Wealth Concept 365. In this lesson, we'll discuss about operating system security. What is an operating system? How to protect your computer from viruses and malware? Do you know what are the different types of attacks that can be launched on your computer? And lastly, what are the best practices in securing your operating system? An operating system, or OS, is a software that manages a computer's memory and processes and allows hardware to communicate and interact with software. Common examples of operating systems are Microsoft Windows, Linux, Mac OS, Android, and iOS, among others. The operating system is critical because it controls how your computer functions and interacts with programs and hardware. It is one of the most important pieces of software that runs on your computer. The main function of an operating system is to act as a medium between the hardware and the software so that both can communicate with each other. For example, when you turn on your computer, the bootloader will first start. The bootloader is part of the operating system, which will load the kernel into the computer's RAM. Once the kernel is loaded, it will then load the rest of the operating system components. In short, the operating system will make sure that all hardware components work together properly and allow software to utilize the hardware in an efficient manner. Another main function of an operating system is to provide a user interface for users to interact with the computer. Without a user interface, you would have to enter commands in a text-based interface to get the computer to do something. Modern operating systems feature graphical user interfaces, GUIs, which allow users to interact with the computer by using icons, windows, and a mouse. Now that we know what an operating system is and what it does, let us discuss how to protect your computer from viruses and malware. Malicious software or malware includes viruses, worms, Trojan horses, and ransomware, among others. These malicious software are created and deployed by hackers to steal data, disrupt operations, or gain unauthorized access to computer systems and networks. Hackers use various methods to deliver malware into victims' computers. One common method is through email attachments or links. A hacker can send you an email with a malicious attachment or link, and if you open it, the malware will be downloaded and installed into your computer. Another common method is through software vulnerabilities. Hackers can exploit software vulnerabilities to gain access to your computer. For example, there was a recent vulnerability found in Microsoft Office. If you open an Office document with macros that contains malicious code and the macro runs, then the malware payload will be executed. Other methods include USB drives, peer-to-peer file sharing, and software vulnerabilities, among others. Once inside the victim's computer, malware can cause several problems. One of the common ones is the theft of sensitive information such as login credentials, financial information, and personal data. Hackers can use keyloggers to record every keystroke you make so they can steal your usernames and passwords. Another problem is the alteration of data. For example, ransomware encrypts your files and asks for a ransom to be paid in order to decrypt the files. Malware can also cause serious damage to your computer. Some malware can delete files, corrupt databases, and even overwrite the operating system. Now that you know how dangerous malware is, let us discuss how you can protect yourself from malware. One is keep your operating system and software up to date. As I mentioned earlier, hackers can take advantage of software vulnerabilities to gain access to your computer. Therefore, it is important that you install updates as soon as possible once they are released. Updates usually include security patches that fix known vulnerabilities. You may have noticed that when you install a Windows update, a restart is required. This is because the update modifies how the operating system works and therefore it must be applied to all operating system components. 2 is install antivirus software and make sure it is turned on. Antivirus software can detect and remove malware from your computer. Make sure to choose a reputable antivirus software and make sure it is updated and turned on at all times. 3 is be cautious of what you click on. As I mentioned earlier, one way to get infected with malware is by clicking on malicious links. Therefore, be cautious of what you click on. Avoid opening email attachments from unknown senders and do not download files from untrustworthy websites. 4 is back up your files regularly. Backing up your files regularly will ensure that you can recover your files if they get corrupted or deleted by malware. There are several ways to back up your files. You can back them up on an external hard drive, cloud storage, or even a combination of both. 5 is use strong passwords and enable multi-factor authentication. Using strong passwords and multi-factor authentication will help protect you from unauthorized access to your computer. Create passwords that are a combination of uppercase and lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters. Also, avoid using the same password for multiple accounts. Multi-factor authentication adds an extra layer of security. When you log into your account, instead of just using a password, you will also need to provide another form of authentication, such as a one-time code or biometric data. 6 is be cautious when connecting to public Wi-Fi. When you connect to a public Wi-Fi network, you are sharing the connection with other people. Hackers can set up fake public Wi-Fi hotspots to trick people into connecting to them. Once you connect to the fake hotspot, they can then see everything you are doing on the internet. Therefore, avoid connecting to public Wi-Fi networks unless you know that they are safe. If you absolutely must connect to a public Wi-Fi network, use a VPN instead. A VPN will encrypt your internet traffic so that hackers cannot see what you are doing online. These are some of the best practices that will help protect your computer from viruses and malware. Now let us discuss the different types of attacks that can be launched on your computer. 1 is a denial of service attack. A denial of service attack, or DDoS attack, is an attack that is meant to make a computer or network resource unavailable to its intended users. Imagine you are trying to visit a website, but the website is constantly loading and never displays the website homepage. This is an example of a DOS attack. DOS attacks can also be launched against individual computers. For example, you may be trying to access your computer, but the hacker keeps on sending login requests until you are locked out of your computer. The second type of attack is a man-in-the-middle attack. A man-in-the-middle attack, or MITN attack, is an attack where the attacker gets between the victim and the intended recipient. The attacker can then see everything that the victim sees. In a man-in-the-middle attack against a website, the hacker can capture your username and password when you log into the website. In a man-in-the-middle attack against a chat, the hacker can see everything that you see and even modify the chat before it reaches the intended recipient. The third type of attack is a phishing attack. Phishing is an attack where the attacker tries to trick the victim into giving them information. Hackers can send you a phishing email pretending to be from your bank asking for your login credentials. If you enter the credentials into the website, then the hacker will capture the credentials and will now have access to your bank account. These are only some of the many types of attacks that can be launched against your computer. Finally, let us discuss the best practices in securing your operating system. The first best practice is to use strong passwords and multi-factor authentication, as I mentioned earlier. Strong passwords will help prevent unauthorized access to your computer, and multi-factor authentication will add an extra layer of security. Next is to keep your operating system and software up to date. As I mentioned earlier, software updates usually include security patches. Therefore, it is important to install them as soon as they are released. Another best practice is to install antivirus software and make sure it is turned on and updated at all times. Antivirus software can help detect and remove malware from your computer. Next is to be cautious of what you click on. Be cautious of what you click on and avoid opening email attachments from unknown senders, and do not download files from untrustworthy websites. And finally, back up your files regularly. Backing up your files regularly will ensure that you can recover your files if they get corrupted or deleted. Those are the best practices that will help secure your operating system. Now that you know how to protect your computer from attacks, it's time to check what you have learned. Let's begin with question No. 1. Which of the following is not a function of an operating system? Manages a computer's memory and processes. B. Allows hardware to communicate and interact with software. C. Performs complex calculations. D. Provides a user interface for users to interact with the computer. The correct answer is C. An operating system manages a computer's memory and processes and allows hardware to communicate and interact with software. However, it does not perform complex calculations. That is the job of the CPU. Question No. 2. What is the main function of an operating system? Perform complex calculations. B. Manage hardware resources. C. Allow software to utilize hardware efficiently. D. Both B and C. The correct answer is D. An operating system manages hardware resources and allows software to utilize the hardware efficiently. Question number 3. What is the name of the component of an operating system that loads the operating system into the computer's RAM? Kernel. B. Bootloader. C. Shell. D. Hardware. The correct answer is B. The bootloader loads the operating system into the computer's RAM. Question number 4. Which of the following is an example of a denial-of-service attack? A hacker sends you an email with a malicious attachment. B. You click on a link that takes you to a fake website and you enter your username and password to log in. C. A hacker keeps on sending login requests until you are locked out of your computer. D. A hacker installs a keylogger on your computer. The correct answer is C. A denial-of-service attack is an attack that is meant to make a computer or network resource unavailable to its intended users. Therefore, an attack where a hacker keeps on sending login requests until you are locked out of your computer is an example of a denial-of-service attack. Question No. 5. Which of the following is a best practice in securing your operating system? Use a password that is easy to remember. B. Ignore software updates since they usually break software. C. Install antivirus software and make sure it is turned on and updated at all times. D. Download files from untrustworthy websites. The correct answer is C. To secure your operating system, always use strong passwords and multi-factor authentication. Keep your operating system and software up to date. Install antivirus software and make sure it is turned on and updated at all times. Back up your files regularly and be cautious of what you click on. That concludes our discussion about operating system security. If you like this lesson, please leave a comment down below. Thank you and see you in the next video.